Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And with the reveal of the Overlord collab units, for this video, I'm going to be going through in a much deeper dive through the kits that we have available right now for all four of the incoming units that are, going to drop tomorrow night. So this video could be long. I'll break it into, sections between each character and timestamps, and then towards the end I'll have a little bit of a kind of a how I think team building is going to go. But we're going to start off with Ainz. He increases Stern of Spirit and Commander allies crit rate. So he gives guaranteed crits to Stern of Spirit and Commander. And if we go into the game right now, this is what Stern of Spirit currently is. Albus, Shinsha, Rain, Raphael, Yom, Old Water Raphael, Dino, and Daggerel. Now, we also know that we're going to have a few additions to that team because these characters are being added to Stern of Spirit. Autogram Leon, Light Leon, Space Leon, Warrior's Mind Rimuru, and then 4 different versions of Hinata. So that, alongside this, means that the team now definitely has a lot more options. But, I mean, realistically, the only ones that are really prominent are going to be the second anniversary Hinata and, I would say, the brand new Shinsha. Because Albus is, she's on a Pierce team. She's giving the Pierce rate. Rain on her own team, already has crits, and she's just not really that much good of a unit now. Raphael doesn't need damage, he just needs vengeance. This Yom is defensive. This Raphael is meant to be used on a Pierce team as well. I mean, you could give it to him. Dino and Dagger are trash. Space Leon can work in an AoE Valor Cup setting. Light Leon is not great. Autogram Leon's not great. This Light Hinata is not great. Water Hinata is okay. If she's meant to be run with Water Shion, who's giving crit. This Hinata is also Fount of Wisdom with Albus, so meant to be used with Pierce, but you can give her crit technically. Warrior's Mind Rimuru is going to be paired up with a EX guy who's giving crit anyways for physical allies. So I'm not entirely sure how good I would rank this skill just because it's limited to Stern of Spirit and Commander. Let's check what Commander has really fast, actually. Commander. That has a lot more options. Okay. Cosma. The new Leon or the new Rimuru. That's a good option. Lumi, Space Rimuru. I mean, you're giving crits already, and then the crit damage is only for dark characters, but you're giving crits. I mean, it's okay, but he's meant to be his own DPS, right? He's giving himself his own magic attack for 70% for one turn. So giving himself crit, I think, is more important than trying to look at this as more of he's trying to be a support unit, because he's honestly a DPS that happens to give support. And I'm not going to, mark him down for these two categories being ass, because what's more important is that he's giving himself guaranteed crits alongside this big time magic attack for 70%. So unfortunately, because this is a green focused team that we're going to be running here, my options for Violet and Blanc are not really going to be too awesome, because Violet is giving 100% magic versus 70, but she's, triple orb changing to blues, and that's not what we want here. So a little bit less usage there. His second skill is what's very, I'd say, interesting, but also kind of wonky. So he's got a 25 cost skill, adds 1 despair charge to all targets. So if you've got 3 people, everyone gets a despair charge. And each charge deals 5% of the target's attack in ongoing damage, and decreases alt resistance by 5%. Max of 100% of each. So 100% attack in ongoing damage and 100% alt resistance down. I'm going to tell you right now, this ongoing damage is not good. Because if we take a look at Vengeance Raphael, each stack of Vengeance is doing 50% of a target's attack and ongoing damage. But this is limited to after turn 5. Ainz does not have a turn restriction, but instead of 50%, it's 5%. And we know how strong Vengeance is, right? That's why this team is so good, is because if you get enough stacks, you will kill everything. Because even if you don't have that much attack, he's doing 3 stacks per usage. Ainz is doing 1 stack. So already you're stacking at a much slower rate, and the percentage of damage you're doing is like severely less. Way, way, way less. But on the plus side, it's not limited to turn 5 and beyond. It is every turn. But 5% here and there, like even if you do 100%, like awesome, cool. That's you're gonna do like 9,000 damage a turn additional. That'll matter for, I'd say, Jubilee tryhards who want, the maximum amount of damage done. But for everybody else, I wouldn't even worry about this 5%. I'd be more concerned with the ult resistance down 5%, because that is going to be a lot more impactful when you're ulting with a single target with guaranteed crits and 70% magic attack and everything else that this team is going to do. So I would not even worry about this passive damage going on. I would just worry for the ult resistance down and making sure that gets capped up more than anything else. But alongside that, he's also raising Green Orb's protection gauge increase by 50% for 1 turn. So you're going to be able to cycle greens a lot more easily by using this skill, because you're going to get 50% extra protection gauge. And this would stack with, say, EX Rain, or, more importantly, free-to-play Isis, because Isis is a green orb changer, and she's got the green all gauge increase by 50%. So you could use this skill and the Isis skill, and for 1 turn, you would have 100% extra protection gauge increase, and then it would go down to 50, because this is active for 3 turns, and Ainz is active for 1. But you can work these 2 skills together, because they're buffing separate things, quote-unquote. So Ainz, he's making the team more efficient by, cycling greens and cycling protectors. He's giving himself his own magic attack and own crit rate, technically. So he's a pretty competent single target DPS unit, 510% here. If I would make him better, I would just take this away and make him guaranteed crits for everybody. Like, it's an 80 cost skill. I don't understand why it has to be 2 specific categories of not super awesome units. Like, EX Guy is doing 80% ult damage and guaranteed crits for physical. Like, I would say you could do 70% magic attack and then guaranteed crits for magic. And I don't think I'd have a problem with that for 80 cost. I think that's what I would change about him to make it more generically good. And then, this whole despair thing, like, I would either make this number a lot bigger, or just get rid of the ongoing damage and buff this 5% ult resistance down up to like 15 or something per stack. I don't know. Maybe that's too high, 10%. This 5% is not going to matter to really anybody but the sweaty tryhards and Jubilee. So there are a few things I would change, but overall I think he is still a good unit, because if by some weird means you can get up to 100% ult resistance down, like, that's a significant amount of damage increase right there, alongside being able to cycle your green protectors. Moving on to Protector Rimuru. He is looking pretty good. He is essentially a power crept version of the first anniversary Dark Veldora, who is, in my opinion, still a fairly good unit. So this Rimuru is increasing all allies, all attribute attack until the end of battle by 10%. And in layman's terms, that means everybody gets a 10% element buff every single time you use him. So if you're a light unit, you get a light buff. If you're a space unit, you get a space unit, or a space buff. If you're dark, you get a dark buff. It's covering all, 6 of the elements, however many elements there are. It's covering all of them. So if you're familiar, with the Anniversary Hinata, she's doing the exact same thing. Increases all allies, all attribute attack by 50%. And it means that makes her so versatile because you can put her on any team, and whoever your team is comprised of, they're going to get their element attack buff. And that's what this Rimuru is doing, but in a stacking measure now. So 10%, 100%, a million percent. It won't go that high because the game will break, but you can stack it forever. And then he's also giving green orbs 100% extra skill point increase up to 500. And this is very reminiscent of what normal blue stacking teams do, except with blue orbs. And blue orbs normally don't give that many skill points. Green orbs are meant to give skill points. So if you're running a blue focused team and this is capped out at 500, you get 293 skill points if you send a 6-hand of blues. If you're going to send a 6-hand of greens with 500, that's going to be like 400 skill points or something like that. Like, that's a lot of skill points we're going to get once this is capped out. And you only have to use them 5 times. And if we're cycling quickly, that's not very difficult. So that is a lot of points to play with very, very quickly. And then on top of that, he also has a skill reset for the front line. So decreases skill cost by 20 for Vanguard allies, cannot go below each skill's initial cost. It's what, Protector Veldora did during the first anniversary, just about. So Veldora increased all allies' magic attack by 10%, which went up to 70, and then it capped out. Skill reset, and then increased the skill cap for you by 45. Rimuru is stacking attack, he's skill resetting, he's giving extra skill points on greens, and then down here in his passive, he's giving a 50-point skill cap increase. And that is just the same as what the second anniversary Protector Lumi did, where every single turn your skill cap went up by 50. So turn 1 was 100, turn 2 was 150, turn 3 is 200, so forth and so forth, until the end of battle. So it allows you to not have to worry about getting a higher cap by, not having a protection gauge to use on, a certain turn. But it also is slightly limiting, of which we're going to be getting a butt ton of points off this, right? And it's going to very, very quickly exceed what we would be capped out at, unless we've been going for like 10 turns or something. So we're going to have a lot of excess skill points coming in from sending 6 hands of greens with this 500% buff, and it's going to very quickly cap out whatever we're at, 150, 300, 350 points, because like I said, a 6-hand of greens with this 500% is going to be like 400 points or something, and it's going to take a while to get to a 400 cap. So that's my only real concern with Rimuru, is that we're not going to be stacking our cap high enough, quickly enough, to really make this 500% green skill point gain really that impactful. It does mean that we'll always be at max skill points in the perfect setting, which I guess is cool in its own right. But I think this Rimuru will be good. I really like Dark Veldora's team. I really liked what he did. The fact that he can skill reset and stack means that it's very easy to run a lot of different teams, especially if he was running a magic team. This Rimuru, you can run anybody, as long as it's a green-focused team. You could literally run any unit under him, because every unit is going to benefit from the stacking element buff, and every unit can get a skill cost, which also makes using like Octagram Guy for some stunning stages a lot easier to use, because on blue stacking teams, like, you use Guy a lot, and eventually it's going to cost 100 points. But with Rimuru, you're gonna reset it to always be 25 cost for the stun, and even if it does get expensive, you're gonna have a butt ton of points to use. So this Rimuru, I think, is gonna be generically good for a lot of people in the future. Moving on now to free-to-play Narberal Gamma. I wish she was a bit better. She's another fucking light unit. I cannot believe they had the balls to make another free-to-play light unit, but here we are in January of 2024 after receiving like 6 of them or something last year. I don't know, that might be an exaggeration, but we got a lot of them. Her first skill is changes Stern of Spirit Force characters' orbs into greens, and then green gauge increased by 10% for 1 turn. This is a highly specific orb change, and it's very reminiscent of what the free-to-play Wielder of Magic Ranga did. Let's go find him really fast. Ranga? Yeah, Ranga. So Ranga changed 2 Wielder of Magic orbs into oranges. So if you remember, like turn 1, you had to make sure that if you want to use a skill, you have to make sure that the people you're trying to change are part of this Wielder of Magic force in order for those orbs to change. Because if you bring Ranga and nobody else and you're trying to use this orb change, it's not going to work. It's going to do actually nothing unless they happen to be Ranga's orbs. The same thing is going to happen for Nabe, where if you're not on Stern of Spirit, but you have your orbs, you use the skill and it doesn't do jack crap. It'll buff the gauge increase by 10%, which is cool. But if you're not currently on the Stern of Spirit force and you don't have those orbs, this orb change will not happen. So it does limit her in some capacity onto a very specific Stern of Spirit team. Her second skill is another orb change, and it changes 2 blues into 2 greens, and then gives a skill point increase on greens by 20%. Man, making her a blue to green really, really intentionally nerfed Isis. Free to play Isis, who is still good to this day. Why? Is because she's got that 50% green buff for 3 turns, and she had an orb change, which was a blue to green. Nabe has a blue to green. If they had made this an orange to green, that would have been a whole lot better, because then we could run both Nabe and Isis together as free-to-play and acquirable units, and we could benefit off this big-time gauge increase alongside these gauge increases, alongside the point increase from Rimuru, alongside the protection gauge increase from Ainz. Like, that would have been really good, and as newer players who maybe don't have all the big-time supports, being able to cycle Rimuru faster and faster and faster with this skill and always have it reset at 15 cost is a lot better than having, her and Nabe both doing blue orb changes, than Nabe doing a very specific orb change here. Like, it kind of eliminates Isis from the team almost. You can still bring her, certainly, but I don't think she's going to be super useful than bringing an orange orb changer to help, cycle and get full hands of greens. So it is slightly unfortunate on Nabe's part, but they did it on purpose to make sure people didn't use Isis that much. And then she's got an AoE light magic attack for 290% and then lowers guard power, which, I know the beatdown battle does have guard, but alts don't care about guard, right? Only normal attacks do. And with stacking teams, you're going for big time alts in order to kill, not normal orb damage. And then the final unit is free-to-play Protector Gabiru dressed up as Demiurge. He seems to be fairly good. He's got Stern of Spirit and Tempest Elite all attribute attack by 20% for 1 turn, raises your skill cap by 20, and then gives you an extra 30% skill point increase on greens up to 300. That's fantastic for a free-to-play unit. He doesn't have the skill reset, but he's giving you a 20% element buff every single time you use him for 1 turn, which means that you can do a lot more damage every time. He's raising your skill cap. He's giving you extra points. Like, that's pretty good for a free-to-play protector, right? I'm pretty happy with that. And then his protection is actual damage done by Stern of Spirit to light 30%, half of what the summonable units do. That's average. And then 12% attack to Tempest Elite and Stern of Spirit. He reminds me of the free-to-play Satoru Rimuru that we got for Visions of Coleus, who was doing exactly what, stacking protectors do, like what Lumi did. Synergy, skill cost, and then blue gauge skill point increase. So instead of synergy rate for 1 turn, you're giving element attack for Stern of Spirit and Tempest Elite for 1 turn. This Satoru was pretty good. I liked him as a free-to-play protector, and which means that this Gabiru, being almost the same but focused on a green team, is also going to be kind of pretty good. The only thing is that this Satoru is giving everybody synergy rate. Meanwhile, this Gabiru is giving Stern of Spirit and Tempest Elite, which, again, we've determined that Stern of Spirit, not the greatest category. Tempest Elite, let's check that out really fast, because I haven't looked at that category in quite a while. Tempest Elite. Well, there's a lot of options, at least. There's a lot of people you can put under him. So, I mean, that's a plus. But he is a little bit more limited than the free-to-play Satoru, but still, I think he's going to be a fairly good protector for newer players. Now, taking a look at the beatdown battle that we're going to be fighting, Light Leon is the boss, and I have a little bit of unfortunate news for you, but he's got a few things going for him. So this is turn 5, and he's got physical resistance, he's got pierce resistance, and he's got synergy resistance. So this is the first boss to nerf synergy directly, because they've been focusing on synergy units for the past 3 months now. Now we're finally getting to a point where we only want to crit. We don't want to pierce, we don't want a synergy, we only want to crit as our big time like damage modifier. Which eliminates some of like one of the major units that I thought was going to be really good on this team after knowing that it was a green focus, and that was Christmas Shuna from the Idol collab, because she has the green alt swap, the double alt swap to greens, and the synergy rate and magic allies synergy power. And this is very much a magic focused team with Ainz and Nabe and incoming Albedo and Shoutir. So it would have been really, really cool to use her to alt swap and, you know, continue stacking and getting full hands of greens. But now can't really do that. I mean, you could bring her, but it's only for that alt swap ability, which is less than ideal, because I want a unit for both skills to be useful, which we can't do here because synergy resistance. So kind of unfortunate. So realistically, there's a few units that'll be good here. I think that Mirai could be useful because of the live mode on greens is giving stacking attack buff and also alt gauge on greens. And then she's got the future hand of greens and green damage by 25%, so you can guarantee incoming hands will be greens forever and ever and ever. Or if you have her, the Idol Shizuka I think is going to be a much more powerful option, because she's got the live mode, which is the stacking attack. She's got the alt resistance down 10% every single time. And she's got the extra weakness strike by 20% and a heal. This is a good unit. And I said that Shizuka on green teams in the future is going to be really, really good, especially if there's a stacking one. And lo and behold, we have a stacking green team. I think Shizuka is going to be a mainstay. Also, she's magic. Great. So I think she'll be good. This 10% alt resistance down is unlimited, which means that even if we cap out Ainz, because he caps at 100% on his alt resistance down, we could go beyond that, because Shizuka does not have a cap. I don't know how often you're going to do that. So if you use both of them, 10% here, 5% here, the odds of you hitting that 100% cap quickly, I think is pretty good. But you can always go higher, because Shizuka is there, if you have her as an option. They're using the Hero 2.0. She's got a single alt swap to green and the orb damage and element down. I mean, that's fine. She's kind of an older unit now. She'll be coming up on a year in the next couple of months or so. But she can be used on a green team, especially to get that alt orb away. Other green units, like Shizu, is only stacking on certain characters. World of Fantasy, Fount of Wisdom, none of which are on here, because Ainz is Commander, Wielder of Magic, and Stern of Spirit, so he wouldn't benefit from that. Let's see, who else? We already talked about Shuna. Shizuka is good. Rain, I mean, also has that 50% green buff that Isis does. She also has a very small magic attack, and she has a little bit of crit resistance, which is nice. So, I mean, you could bring Rain. If not for using this like on random turns, you could definitely bring her for the green buff and the crit resistance down for two turns or 3 turns. So she's definitely an option for you. Also, like Soka, she's got the future hand of greens skill as well, plus an attack buff, but it's based on Gods of Destiny and World of Fantasy, of which again none of them are on, so it wouldn't be a very powerful green buff. And then there's a bunch of free-to-play options. Free-to-play Trya, I think, will be a very, very good option, being magic and a dedicated green orb changer. Honestly, like I kind of like the idea of bringing Traya more than bringing Nabe, and that's just the unfortunate truth. She's not on Stern of Spirit, no, but she's got a lot better orb changing capabilities than Nabe does because this is limited. This is blues, so you could bring Traya and you could bring Isis, and you could be very well covered on orbs. Especially if you bring maybe Dark Milim, Anniversary Milim, because she's got the alt buff. She's got a dark attack 25%. If she's skill fused, it gives it to all dark allies instead of just herself, which Ainz is dark, right? So we'll check dark right here. And then she's got a special convert. So Milim will be probably a very good unit to use here. And then, man, who else? Free-to-play Misery does have a small green buff. Green gauge by 30% for 2 turns, and then damage for 15% for 2 turns. And she also has a heal. She might be a good free-to-play unit to bring. And then, apart from that, there's a few others that you could talk about. But this video is getting pretty long, so we're gonna go ahead and end it. Overall, I'm liking what I see. We still have Albedo and Shoutier and the mystery unit to come into the game, so we'll see what they do. But let me know what you guys think about this. That's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.